The flashing blue and red lights painted the quiet suburban road in waves of color as the single father slowly pulled his old pickup truck onto the shoulder. His hands trembled, not because he feared a traffic ticket, but because every dollar in his worn wallet already had a purpose. His daughter's asthma medication was due that evening, the electricity bill had been overdue for 2 weeks, and the lunch money he had carefully folded into his shirt pocket was all he had left until payday. Sometimes life doesn't break a person all at once. Sometimes it does it one unpaid bill, one sleepless night, and one impossible choice at a time. On that warm Tuesday afternoon, he believed this traffic stop was simply another reminder that life never stopped testing those already carrying the heaviest burdens. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, second chances, and unexpected acts of compassion can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy. Your support helps us bring more heart-touching stories every week. Elias Mercer had been raising his 8-year-old daughter Nora alone since losing his wife 3 years earlier. Every morning began before sunrise. He packed lunches, braided Nora's hair after learning from online videos, prepared breakfast, and drove 40 minutes to a warehouse where he worked long shifts loading heavy freight. By the time he returned home, exhaustion clung to him like a shadow, yet he still found enough strength to help with homework, cook dinner, and read bedtime stories because he refused to let his daughter feel the emptiness that had settled into their home after tragedy stole the person they loved most. That morning had already gone terribly wrong. Nora woke up coughing through another asthma episode. Elias comforted her until her breathing slowed, causing him to leave for work much later than usual. His old truck, held together by determination more than mechanical reliability, struggled to start. Knowing he risked losing hours from his paycheck, he pressed slightly harder on the accelerator than he normally would. A few minutes later, flashing lights appeared behind him. Officer Serena Holt approached the vehicle with quiet professionalism. She had served the community for almost 12 years and had seen countless drivers offer excuses, but something about the exhausted father sitting behind the wheel immediately felt different. His uniform was faded from years of hard work. His hands carried fresh cuts from lifting heavy equipment. His eyes revealed the unmistakable look of someone who hadn't truly rested in months. As Serena requested his license and registration, she noticed a small inhaler resting beside a child's pink backpack on the passenger seat. Family photographs covered the dashboard. Every picture showed the same smiling little girl, while only older photographs included her mother. Something about the images stayed with Serena as she returned to her patrol car to complete the paperwork. While entering the required information, department policy prompted her to verify the emergency contact listed on his driver's license. The name appeared on the screen, and her fingers stopped moving. Margaret Ellis. The name struck her like lightning. Margaret had once been Serena's high school teacher nearly 20 years earlier. During one of the darkest chapters of Serena's childhood, when her own family was falling apart and dropping out of school seemed inevitable, Mrs. Ellis had quietly bought textbooks, paid activity fees, and even arranged meals without ever asking for recognition. That single woman had believed in a struggling teenager when almost nobody else did. Serena stared back toward Elias's truck. Could this exhausted father somehow be connected to the woman who had completely changed her life? Curiosity turned into disbelief when she gently asked Elias about the emergency contact after returning to the vehicle. He explained that Margaret Ellis had been his late wife's mother. Since his wife's passing, Margaret had become Nora's only remaining grandmother and often cared for the little girl whenever work demanded impossible hours. Serena felt emotion rise inside her. Life had somehow brought her face to face with the family of the woman who had once rescued her future. Instead of rushing through the traffic stop, she asked a few gentle questions. She learned about the hospital bills that remained unpaid after his wife's illness. She learned about the extra overnight shifts he accepted just to keep food on the table. She learned about Nora's dream of becoming a veterinarian because animals, unlike people, never judged anyone for being poor. Department policy still required accountability, but it also allowed officers discretion under certain circumstances. Serena issued only a written warning, along with advice about repairing the truck's damaged brake light before it created a greater danger. Before Elias drove away, she quietly handed him a folded note containing information about a local nonprofit that assisted widowed parents with emergency expenses. He thanked her politely, believing it was simply another brochure. That evening he almost threw it away. Instead, he called. Within days, Volunteers repaired his truck free of charge. Nora received assistance covering her medication costs. A retired mechanic donated his labor. Local grocery vouchers helped stretch the family's tiny budget. None of these people expected repayment. They simply believed helping one struggling family strengthened the entire community. Months passed. For the first time since losing his wife, Elias found himself breathing without the crushing weight of constant fear. His improved attendance earned him a promotion to warehouse supervisor. The raise wasn't enormous, but it allowed him to replace panic with cautious hope. Nora noticed the difference. Her father laughed again. They spent Saturday afternoons in the park instead of worrying about unpaid bills. They planted flowers outside their small home. They baked cookies using her late mother's recipe. Slowly, grief stopped being the only thing filling their house. Serena occasionally saw them around town. She never expected thanks. She believed she had simply honored the kindness once shown to her by Margaret Ellis years earlier. Then came the Community Appreciation Banquet. Local leaders gathered to recognize citizens whose quiet actions had strengthened the neighborhood. Serena expected another routine evening of awards. Instead, Elias stepped onto the stage. He spoke about invisible struggles. He explained that poverty often hides behind clean clothes and polite smiles. He described how one compassionate decision from a police officer had reminded him that rules and humanity could exist together. He never exaggerated. He never portrayed Serena as a hero. He simply explained that sometimes people don't need miracles. Sometimes they just need one person willing to see them before judging them. The audience rose in applause. Serena felt tears quietly gather in her eyes. Not because she had been recognized, but because she realized kindness had completed a full circle. Years earlier, Margaret Ellis had lifted up a frightened teenage girl. That teenager became a police officer. That officer helped Margaret's grieving son-in-law. That father rebuilt his daughter's future. One act of compassion had traveled through decades, touching lives no one could have predicted. Nora eventually earned a scholarship to study veterinary medicine. At graduation, she carried a small photograph of both her mother and grandmother inside her gown. She often told friends that her success belonged to everyone who had refused to let her father fight alone. Elias never forgot the afternoon he expected another financial setback and instead discovered that hope sometimes arrives wearing a police badge. His life wasn't suddenly perfect. There were still difficult days, unexpected expenses, and moments when grief quietly returned. But he had learned something far more valuable than financial security. No person survives life entirely alone. Every community is built by ordinary people choosing compassion over indifference. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who still believes kindness matters, leave a comment telling us what part moved you the most, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy for more emotional stories that remind us humanity is still alive. Special request. Please comment. Kindness always finds its way back. Heart. As the sun set over the quiet neighborhood that evening, Elias watched Nora laugh while chasing butterflies across the yard. For the first time in years, he realized that happiness had not returned all at once. It had come through small acts of mercy, unexpected strangers, and people who chose compassion when they had every reason to walk away. And perhaps that is how the brightest futures are always built, not by extraordinary heroes, but by ordinary hearts brave enough to be kind when kindness is needed most.